Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our second Smart Growth and Urban Info webinar hosted by the New Jersey Sierra Club. And tonight we're going to focus on Madison's 100% affordable housing project. Next slide, Jack. So this is just a snapshot of today's webinar. It's going to be about 60 minutes. I will introduce some of our facilitators, give a quick refresher of what smart growth and urban infill is. We'll hear from remarks by Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. We'll also hear remarks by Madison Mayor Robert Conley, who will go into extensive detail of the Madison project. And then finally, we'll end in a Q&A session. So the facilitators tonight are myself. Hello, everyone. I'm the Conservation Program Manager for the Sierra Club New Jersey chapter. Also tonight joining us from the New Jersey chapter is our Chair of the Environmental and Social Justice Committee, Renee Pollard.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
So what is smart growth and urban infill? Smart growth is where transportation and land use decisions are made concurrently, with a focus on reducing vehicles mile traveled, affordable housing choices, lower minimum parking spaces requirements, transportation, infrastructure design that reduces stormwater runoff, and plentiful natural green spaces. And urban infill is actually part of smart growth. It really involves increasing density through adding new housing, commercial, retail, and public facilities to already developed neighborhoods. And some of the benefits of these practices is that it minimizes sprawl, it really reduces vehicle miles traveled, it improves accessibility and community connectivity. It's cost effective because you're using the same infrastructure. And then, of course, it minimizes environmental impact by preserving green spaces. So in 2021, Sierra Club actually published its urban infill guidance, and you can find that on your bottom right corner. You can hover over that QR code or just simply type in sc.org/info, and we can put it in the chat for you guys. So what that site brings you to is our full urban infill guidance, a quick one-pager, and then also helpful presentations that you can use with land use examples and more. And what our guidance provides is basically just an overview of how land use decisions get made, how to get involved in the process to ensure that urban infill policies are included in local plans and ordinances, and more. So one of the main reasons we're holding this webinar is really to provide guidance for towns that now have new obligations for developing affordable housing. The New Jersey Sierra Club believes affordable housing is an important and necessary obligation for all municipalities in New Jersey. Affordable housing is a human right. All neighborhoods should be open to people of all income levels and backgrounds, period. However, some factors need to be considered when implementation, including environmental impact, access to jobs, amenities and transportation, infrastructure capacities, and enforcement of land preservation laws and regulations. So we really think that the Madison's Affordable Housing Project fit that bill. Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill and Madison Mayor Conley were a huge part of this project. It's really a great model for towns planning to fulfill their affordable housing obligations. Unfortunately, Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill could not make it in person tonight. However, she did send us her recorded remarks that we will play right now.
And I am so incredibly proud of the work that Madison has done to develop these affordable homes. And they are 100% energy efficient with double pane windows, heat pumps, solar panels. This is the development really keeping energy costs down, while at the same time repurposing already developed land for the housing we so desperately need in our state. Because let's face it, we just have a crisis of housing. Costs are too high. We don't have enough of it. So we've got to build. But we also have the most densely populated state in the nation. And we want to make sure that we're preserving our watersheds, our open spaces for our community. So in repurposing these commercial sites, we can get more housing into New Jersey on already developed land. It's why I just introduced another piece of legislation after getting dollars through the Appropriations Committee in fiscal year 23 for this project in Madison. I just introduced more legislation so we can provide tax incentives to developers who want to repurpose underutilized land. So I'm going to keep working on how we build more houses, how we do it in New Jersey in a way that makes sense for all of our communities and drive down costs for New Jersey families.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Next slide, Madison Mayor will give a detailed overview of the project, how it was achieved, the developers involved, and more. Take it away, Mayor Conley.
Thank you, Taylor. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for Sierra Club for hosting. It's always tough to follow Congressman Sherrill, though, but I'll do my best. Just want to give a little background before we get into the project itself. First, for me, I'm pretty much a lifelong Madison resident. My family moved here when I was 5 years old. I had a big part of choosing Madison, I think. I'm in my fourth term as a mayor, 14th year overall. And in addition to being mayor, I'm currently serving as the president of New Jersey Conference of Mayors. Madison, for those that aren't familiar, we are in southeastern Morris County on the Midtown Direct train line, 17,000 residents. It's been fairly stable population-wise. The population when my family moved here in the early 60s was just under 16,000, so we haven't grown a whole lot. Inside our 4 square miles. We have a strong downtown. But what is really important is a long-time commitment to affordable housing. Our housing authority was founded in the 1970s, which is very rare for a suburban community to even have a housing authority. As I've often said, we view affordable housing not as a moral obligation, not a legal obligation. I think that if towns approach it that way, you can get to the solution in a much better way. Our first units were built in the late 70s. They're scattered site incorporated throughout the neighborhoods, just as was stated by Taylor in her opening comments about smart growth. And more recently and just important as we into the 21st century is a commitment to sustainability and also addressing climate change to minimize our carbon footprint in Madison. We've been a mid-sized champion with Sustainable Jersey for multiple years. And in addition to our Environmental Commission, we have and our Sustainable Madison Advisory Committee, we also have a Climate Action Committee. The Climate Action Committee is recommending policies to put in place for the borough to follow, but also encourage residents to do the right thing. And we can go to the next slide. And as we go shortly to our first graphic is this project you're about to see is part of our third round obligation. So as we settled our third round, we committed to a 40-unit, 100% affordable project. And this was in addition to zoning changes that would have overlay zones throughout the borough. And any project that is within the borough has to be done with the 20% affordable. There is no excluded zones. And as we approached doing this project, we realized we can make this very special. So that's what I'll be talking about. But just talk about the location for the, as it relates to smart growth. The bigger circle is our old Civic Center building. That's where our senior center was, along with some other offices. It had pretty much been an obsolete building. It was interesting as a senior center. It had 2 floors. The elevator had 3 stops. You couldn't get to any activity barrier free without taking the elevator. The front part of the building was really very much run down. So it was a good repurposing. The smaller circle was part of the elementary school, which is that building you'll see just lower as you go down a little bit lower right from the bigger circle. So that parcel was transferred over to the borough for affordable housing. and based on a prior agreement. So 14 units are being built on a small circle and 30 units on the big circle. You can't really see it from this map, but you can get a feel for, you see the ball field a block away, a fully accessible playground that we just opened up this summer right next to that ball field. You see the lower right ball field in the corner. That's a part of the middle school. And the concentration of buildings, that's our downtown, and our train station would be bottom in the center there. So it's fully walkable to transportation, shopping, and everything you would want for a smart growth location. And besides the half next door to the elementary school, half a mile to the middle school, 3/4 mile to the high school, just over half a mile to the train station. So let us go to the next slide. So take a sip of water. So we'll take a few views of the project. So as we looked at this project, we, my notes have also got fouled up here. Sorry, my notes got fouled up. Right. So one of the things that could have been done with this project that might have made it even more energy efficient would be to have a single building, elevator building, but it would not have been appropriate for the site. This is in a, besides next to a, adjacent to downtown, it is in a residential neighborhood, a transitional thing. So we felt that it should have the look of market rate construction. So we opted for townhomes. Just 1 second. And once this is constructed, it will be the first multifamily affordable housing development in New Jersey meeting passive house net zero energy standards. Besides doing something for Madison and doing the right thing on the site, we hope that this is going to set the tone for future projects in New Jersey and hopefully the country. And as you'll see, a project like this does cost more to build, because the energy efficiency, triple pane windows and the like are going to be more expensive, but it provides a return on investment over the time. So certainly well worth the investment. And another discussion we had as we were talking about the added cost to this project to make it passive net zero, and the feedback was, should we be putting that sort of money into affordable housing? And my answer to that is, of course we should. Should energy efficiency, should passive construction be reserved for those who can afford it, or should we be really doing it for those who need the support? And you'll see how it even provides extra benefit. We'll go to the next slide to get another view of the project. So you can see a very welcoming green areas, and there are certainly 88 units on the first floor, and a mixture of bedroom sizes. In the next slide. And here you can see an overall view. In the upper center is the 14 unit, which is on a different street, but almost adjacent. You see the school right there. And you'll notice the solar panels on the south facing roofs. That will be for each unit. So I will explain how that works also. So we can go to the next slide. So here's some of the elements that are included. Energy Star appliances, which I hope would be a given these days, but you never know. LED lighting, another thing that should be a given. But here's where the extra investment comes in. High efficiency heating and cooling equipment. 50 years cement board siding, if you would know it as Hardy Plank as a brand name to compare with. So this is sustainable as the fact that you're not replacing it in a short time, and it's not made out of vinyl. Fully electric ready. And then solar panels for each unit. One of the things to think about this concept of this is, it could be done differently to use community solar to do it, but we did it for each unit. And so in a way, you will have electricity that is subsidized for the residents of this affordable unit. Utilities not subsidized by government, but subsidized by the sun, which I think is a great model, something that really should be a standard. So let's go to the next slide. And then the extra level is the passive house design elements. Not the standard level insulation, a little bit thicker walls, more insulation in the walls, energy recovery ventilators in each unit. Mikey did mention double pane windows. No, they're going to be triple pane windows. That will be in there, and advanced air sealing techniques, truly keeping the cost of energy down for all the residents here. And we can go to the next slide. Next slide there. There we go. So overall project, $25 million, and that is certainly on the high end, but as I mentioned, it's more money up front, but in the long run will benefit all the residents as a actually developer. In the end, it's going to be efficient over time. We have a housing trust fund, which is created by projects that are not able to incorporate housing on site. You know, for example, if a project required 1.2 affordable units, they would build 1 unit on site and put the equivalent of 0.2 of a unit into our housing trust fund. So not 0.9 million came from that. 1.2 million of HMFA trust fund. The $2 million federal grant, a little bit more than $2 million through Mikey Sherrill's effort. A $400,000 Morris County home grant. And certainly what made it more doable is the fact that we own the property. And so it was transferred over to the developer for $1. On top of having these funding partners that made this possible, and also knowing that over time it would pay off, you need to have the right developer on board. So we went through a very detailed RFQ request for qualifications process, and then followed up with requests for proposals from potential developers. We ended up with partnering with RPM, who's known for doing some high quality, 100% affordable projects, and a developer that was willing to take on a project like this. You know, you don't want to get caught up in designing a great project, having a great goal, but then having the wrong developer. You'll just get off track right off the bat. We can take a look at the next slide. And this will give you some idea of, and these are the all-in costs. So the triple glazed tempered glass windows, screens, and hardware. So obviously you would have had screens and the hardware on the double pane windows, but you know, the cost for these triple glazed is $311,000. Not over and above the double pane, but gives you an idea of what the triple glazed costs. The appliance systems, energy efficient, $172,000. The heat pump system, the HVAC system installation, $744,000. The insulation, $374,000. Drywall, these are all things that have to be done. A lot of these numbers would have been smaller, but not zero. Certainly not zero in the overall budget. So $2 million kind of it was a ballpark for the addition to make this energy efficient and meeting the standards of passive construction. And yep. And I think hopefully I think I covered everything. Taylor, did I miss anything that we had talked about?
I don't, but if participants have any questions, Rebecca has put in a link to the form, or put your questions in the chat and we will do our best to answer them. But Renee, I'm going to have you take over and start with the Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Taylor, and thank you, Mayor Connolly, for that presentation. Okay, I'll start with the first question. Now, this question is regarding the new affordable housing law. What do you think will be the possible fights or challenges municipalities may face for or against As you know, was a challenge not too long ago. And that question is for you, Mayor Connolly.
Yep. There's actually a couple of active challenges right now. And having been very much involved with this discussion through the Conference of Mayors, League of Municipalities, and my role as mayor, one of the biggest challenges we have is there is no easy solution to providing affordable housing. And New Jersey makes it more difficult by having 564 different municipalities. So you would never recommend doing planning at that micro level, but that's the deal we have. We've been the hand we've been dealt, and what we need to work our way through. I think one of my or a couple of things I've been saying through this whole process as they set up the legislation for round 4 is we had a very long time in New Jersey where there was development without looking towards affordable housing. And this is whether it was residential development or commercial development. Residential, obviously, as Taylor mentioned in the beginning, we should have affordable housing incorporated in neighborhoods throughout every municipality. And if you have commercial development, it's 100% commercial. Where are the people living that will be working there? And so we've had this enjoying development without affordable housing. And now we need to get to the point of making sure every project includes affordable housing. So I've said, if there's development, there must be affordable housing, but we have to watch that we don't use affordable housing as an excuse for poor planning. And again, that goes back to the smart growth that we have to have this well planned. So hopefully that kind of answered the question. There's pushbacks. One of the active challenges right now is the fact that there are urban aid communities. The way it's looked at right now is urban aid communities are part of the calculation for the need, but they are not part of the calculation for the solution. So Jersey City, for example, might generate a need, but they would not get an obligation to provide housing. And I would argue that at Jersey City, affordability is a major issue. There are other major towns where certainly are urban aid communities, and affordability is an issue. So every town should be part of the solution. And I think urban aid should be part of the equation, but not a way to eliminate a town from providing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So do you have any advice for local government leaders on trying to mirror this project?
I think step one is have the philosophy in place ahead of time. So when it comes time to delivering your affordable housing project, you're not just doing it for affordable housing. You've also had a commitment to sustainability, a commitment to fighting climate change. And by doing that, you have that mindset that your community is committed to providing the best possible developments. And then as you go forward, get the right partners, as I pointed out, the right developers to partner with, and turn over every rock for funding. It's not, you may not be able to get federal grants with every project, but and it could be an extra challenge for the next 4 years, but you certainly need to look at that angle, look at the county level funding, and certainly making sure that you have a housing trust fund where you're collecting from the developers, and that money is being used exactly for what it's being collected for, delivering affordable housing.
Thank you. Next question. So how is Madison getting ready to accommodate more affordable housing in your town?
Yeah, for the next round, I'm not sure if we will see a 100% project or not. Certainly is a possibility, but we are known as a vacant land adjustment town, which means we have very limited vacant land. We're limited as to borough properties that we did with this one that could be switched over. But what we do when there is a inclusionary project, which would be a project of 80% market rate and 20% affordable, they're going to be living up to the same sort of standards that this project is of sustainability, solar panels, the fully electric heat pumps, wherever we can hold the developer to that standard, we're going to make sure it happens. So whether it's 100% or a inclusionary, let's make sure it's delivered the right way.
Okay, thank you. Next question, and I'm gonna send this one over to Taylor. Advice for participants on this call who want to support smart growth in their town. What should they do?
I think definitely understand what their town is doing. If they have plans in place, go to your local planning board, go to your town councils, see what's on the agenda. We actually have an actionable item, and I'll put it in the chat now, basically asking your municipal leaders to pursue smart growth. If you've seen this presentation, I'm sure you have because you're all on, connect them with Robert Conley and say like, hey, this can be done. And I'm sure Mayor Conley has the answers for them, but just get educated, get involved. This can happen, and it's important too because towns are trying to accommodate affordable housing left and right, and we need to have it developed smart and sustainably.
And I would just throw in addition for you to get educated, is to see if your land use board members are being educated on smart growth.
Okay, thank you.
We
Thank
do
you.
we do have some more questions.
And chat.
Yeah, so Mayor Adams, who owns the solar panels? Do the residents get SRX money from the solar panels?
The residents would not be getting the SREX. That will help. They will help finance the project. They will benefit from the reduced electric power. And this, I do have to throw the qualifier out there. This certainly could be done in any town, but it's rules are a little different in Madison in that we own our electric utility. So we are residents are actually buying their power from Madison if they're not getting it from the sun.
Perfect. Let's see. How is affordable defined? What income restrictions are imposed?
That is strictly done on HUD regulations. I don't have the various categories off the top of my head, but I can tell you a few, but for the most part of each project, there are units that might be reserved for the very low income, which is at one level, and low income. This project has 5 units that are to address homelessness. So a family or individuals that have been facing housing challenges, they can find a home in this project. And so by allocating a certain number of projects that are units that it helps solve not just affordable housing, but housing period for some people.
Let's see. Is the high efficiency heating cooling system based on heat pumps or natural gas?
Heat pump systems.
And in terms of the project, what were the total units and how many were affordable? I think that's
yeah. So this is 100% of, well, technically it's I've been talking about a 44 unit project. It's 43 affordable units, and 1 unit is reserved for the on-site resident manager. And just to get a little more detail, depending on whether it's a single bedroom up to, there's some 3-bedroom units. Again, the bedroom mix is also dictated by working with fair share and making sure we're meeting the need, but they'll range from 609 square feet to 1,200 square feet.
Let's see, next question. Were any native plants used in the landscaping? How was the contractor selected?
So the planting, we have a town ordinance which actually doesn't affect local residents, but guides the borough. We will only do native plants for any of our properties, and we will hold the the developer here to native plants also, and any applications that now go through the planning board are held to using native plants only. And the selection process for the developer, we were aware of RPM's work, so it was someone we knew of, but it was a fully open process of where we requested qualifications and then narrowed it down based on the qualifications and the history of their work, and then got proposals, and they were selected in two main areas. One was their reputation to be able to deliver it, but another was in their design. We had, I mentioned earlier that the possibility of doing a single building, elevator building, which would not have been appropriate for the site. That was the more common proposal. There was a one with a podium with parking underneath. Again, not appropriate for the or podium parking, so the parking was underneath. It would not have been appropriate for the site. So by the fact that they were creative and looked at the site and came up with a design that really looked at the neighborhood and looked at the need, and it came through. So that's how we settled on it. And a quick aside in the chat, our Madison communication director just posted a link to the housing qualification, income qualifications, if anyone is interested.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, that was just sent to me, so he couldn't, so I can.
Oh, Michelle, yeah, is that from or Michael?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
If you got that, yep.
Yes, thank you. I think Joan Macari is asking for a link for the passive house standards. Joan, if you have your, if you can put your email, if you want, in the chat, and we can send that over to you. Or if Mayor Conley has it ready, we can also just put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, that I'll, I don't have that outside of a couple of things I noted in the presentation. I don't have the detail on what passive housing requirements are, but it is certainly related to level insulation, the heating, cooling equipment, triple pane windows, and being ready for, and Joe McCarry, who asked that question, is a Madison resident, so we can get that to you, Joe.
Perfect. Joan, I got your email address. We will send that over to you. Next question, Brian asked, this project was built on land owned by the town, correct? How could this be done for privately owned property?
The biggest challenge for privately owned property is buying the property to begin with. We know what the cost of land is in North Jersey. We're not making any new land, so that was a big part of this being a possibility. Being able to donate or sell the land for $1. If we had to buy this, it still would have been a possibility. We had more money in our housing trust fund, so we might have drained the housing trust fund in order to purchase the land. But the numbers work better if you have the land to begin with. And we have a link now in the chat to connect you with the sustainability requirements.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
Next question by Carmel. Are property tax assessment based on the income the project generates?
What we typically do, this will be a pilot project, so with 100% affordable, the pilot is a greatly reduced pilot. In order to make it affordable, the pilot is paid by the developer.
Got it. Okay. Joanne asks, what are parking limitations?
There are parking on site. I did have in the my notes. Let me take a quick look at my notes here. How many parking spots we have for the if I find it off the top of my head, but one of the things we have done in Madison approvals is recognize that, again, with smart growth, if you're building close to stores, close to where they can do their shopping, close to public transportation, you can reduce the number of parking spots on site. And so that was certainly part of the calculation. It is, I'm guessing it might be 1.5 per unit. I can't find it. And certainly there will be a good number of charging stations for EVs. There'll be 68 total. So 68 total spots for 44 units. So that's maybe 1.2 per unit. Yeah, getting close to 1.5, but certainly reduced, so it covers the and 15% of them will be electric vehicle ready.
Perfect. Next question by Victor. What was the reaction to locating the affordable housing at the site from the immediate neighborhood and the greater community?
That's certainly a question from a former mayor. I would say in times of in the time I've been involved in Madison, the pushback has improved, but there is still pushback. We've gone from people talking about those people, which is these people are people who are working, could be working our schools, it could be working in offices, it could be someone who's just started off as a teacher, and now the comments more are, this is a great project, it's great Madison is doing it, but can you do it somewhere else? So one of the things I did do in advance, because we actually had proposed a project on this site about 10 years ago, and we had to postpone it for various reasons, but one of the reasons was the neighborhood pushback. We were trying to get ahead of our obligation. We were not doing the project at that time to meet an obligation. So now when we shifted gears, the conversation was different. But before we made the formal proposal, I did sit down with, I walked down the street and sat in the living room of some of the residents there. And it ranged from, yes, it's a nice looking project. Is there somewhere else where could it be? But if it's going to be here, would you consider this? Would you consider that? There was someone that I've known for years who told me that they'll probably be moving away from the block because of this project. They are still there, and I think they probably will be there for time to come, because it's a worry of the unknown, and it is this is a multi-family zone, but most of the other, there's a condo project right next door, which is an inclusionary project. On one end of the block, there's single family homes. The other end, there's multi-family homes. But certainly it is a little more intense than the neighborhood had seen. And they were also concerned about the traffic being generated. Didn't hurt that I could say, well, I live a block away, and if there's any traffic, I'll be dealing with that too. And so we had to talk through that. So there will always be pushback. But I think it's helpful when you come back with a project that is respectful for the neighborhood. I mentioned a couple of times already, we could have done a elevator building that would have really stood out and would not have been appropriate, and I would have understood the pushback there. This is something that Madison's going to be proud of, and I think the neighborhood, when it's done, they can be proud of.
Thanks, Mir. Next question by Joanne. Will families be able to stay in their homes if their income grows and exceeds the affordable guidelines?
Yeah, it's a interesting concept, and I'm not talking from expertise, but I from what I understand, you are paying a certain percentage of your income. So what happens is, as your income goes up, what you pay for rent goes up. You would not be forced out of there, but you may get to a point where it doesn't make sense for you to be staying in the unit for the rent you're paying. And so that's how you get the turnover. It's also very important to know that these units have to be marketed in a regional area. So there is no Madison residential preference. And that's been one of the hot topics in the affordable housing legislation. The new legislation does not permit a residential preference, and you can argue both ways. But I would say I'm a firm believer in not having residential preference. I have someone that used to work for me who lives in Newark, and when she heard about this project in Madison, she just talked about being able to get her children into the Madison school system. And that's what affordable housing should be about, is giving opportunities for any family to get the education, get the life that everyone, those that are able, are enjoying.
Great. Mayor Nancy Adam asks, given how close the project is to downtown, was any thought given to lesser parking per unit, or would that not have been acceptable to the community?
Yeah, there's certainly for the community as a whole. I don't think there would have been a whole lot of pushback. The 68 total parking spots are certainly a reduction from what would be required on that site for standards. We are not doing this with this project, but I have taken the approach with the planning board of, when there's a concern about the amount of parking, is to bank some of the parking. So you approve the project with a larger number of parking spots, but the initial you install fewer, and the rest are grass, pervious surface. If the additional parking is needed, they can convert that without having to come back to land use board. But if it's not needed, it is green space. And I can tell you, with every project that we've done that, no one has come back, and no one has converted the parking spots into parking. They've remained green space, because you have a downtown project, you don't need those number of parking spots. We have done a couple of recent approvals in downtown with zero parking provided, because there was no reasonable way to get parking on site, and it has to be managed in another way.
Okay, perfect. What is Madison's total obligation, including this 44? What do you see as obstacles to doing your next project as 100%? And is 50-50 a possibility from your experience?
Yeah, it all comes down to numbers. You know, the 100% works very well if you own the land. The 50-50 has to work with the developer. You know, we have done a recent approval that was a 25%, so it was more than the 20% requirement. And this was a garden apartment on our main street. They had a big lawn in front, which was, you know, again, a nice green space, but not typical for a main street. So the agreement was they would use some of the existing apartments for their 3-bedroom obligation for affordable. And in return for using existing apartments and not building new ones, we were up them to a 25% affordable ratio. So it can be, you know, I think you can be creative at the ways that the projects are defined, and make it work for the developer and for the town.
Thanks, Mayor. Are there any other towns that are trying to mirror this, you know, type of project?
Not that we know of. As I said, we certainly anticipate, when we cut the ribbon, that we will be the first one of this project of this type in New Jersey. You know, townhome type construction, 100% affordable, passive energy standards. But we hope it creates the momentum that this is the way to do it. It hit me as just the concept of the solar panels, as I saw a couple of smiles on there when I said having power subsidized by the sun instead of government, that's just, that should be a no-brainer. I just that should be the standard.
I think there's another question. Is there any information on the marginal increase of the cost of this sustainable project versus a standard build?
It certainly, we had that one slide. If we go back a little bit, I think it was about a $2 million, right there. So that, for the most part, this is probably a fair representation of the additional cost of upping the drywall, the siding, the increased insulation, and so on. I think there is some overlap as to, and I may have to confirm this. I believe there is some overlap as far as again, that the insulation, if they use standard insulation, I don't think that 374 just goes to zero. I think it gets reduced. But these are all costs related to energy efficiency. Some would be included anyway. Maybe a 1.5 million might have been the added costs.
Perfect. I think in terms of just in terms of advocacy, because we do have advocates who are trying to promote smart growth in their towns. What are kind of the barriers that you found trying to emulate this project and other towns trying to emulate affordable housing? And what can we as advocates do about it? Is it legislation on the state side? Is it trying to find more funding? How can we help you guys?
I think funding is going to be a big challenge. As we said, that the upfront costs are more for a project like this. You're going to recover it over time. But when you're trying to get that upfront money, that's what elected officials probably sweat more about, is the upfront money, as opposed to how much it can cost on the long run. So we need to work on the funding side. I think the advocacy on the approach of people should start thinking of projects like this as the norm and not the special. Why wouldn't we require solar panels on affordable housing? Why wouldn't we have heat pump systems, triple pane windows? That it's tough enough to get by in the high cost of living in New Jersey, and be even tougher, especially as we look at the weather of this week, when you figure out that part of your paycheck is going right out that window, literally, because you can't keep the heat inside the house, or can't keep it cool in the summertime.
Great. Let's see. Carmen says, I'm interested of the true financial costs of affordable housing projects, which is the difference with market rate rents versus affordable housing rents and the cost of donated land.
Yeah, that might require a whole separate class for me to answer. One of the other things that helped the financial modeling of this project is, and again, example of, by having a housing authority, that you have a more resources. There's going to be 8 Section 8 housing vouchers that will be dedicated to this project. So that helps the rent collection, the numbers for the developers. So it's another creative thing for communities to look at, is what are the rocks you can turn over to find other sources of money. Some will be grants out front. Some may be something like Section 8 vouchers that they can be used in the project, but when they're dedicated to the project, the developer can then count on that income in a pro forma.
I think we have about 11 more minutes. Mayor, is there anything else that you would like to add?
I think, keep track of this, so you can come and see it when we cut the ribbon. And I think you'll be truly impressed with the look. You won't be able to get a feel for the energy bills right when we cut the ribbon, but I think we can report back probably a year later and talk about how much different it is than some of our other sites in Madison. I would we have a great town to come by and for to have a meal. So come to Madison, check out one of our restaurants, go down, take a right on or left on Central Avenue, and you'll see the Central Avenue School, Walnut Street. You drive down there, you'll see the project underway, and you'll see how close it is. In fact, better yet, leave your car where you parked it for your lunch and then walk down and so you can see how close it is.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Mayor, for all the answers. I know that was a lot of questions, but this is a hot topic.
Yep.
This meeting will be recorded, so we will send out a recording for all the participants. Again, if you have any questions, please fill out the link that I just put in, but I can also include that link in the follow-up email to everybody. Renee, are there any other questions that you'd like to add?
I think he did, he really went in depth with his answers. There were a lot of good questions. And if there's anything additional, like Taylor said, please fill out the form and we'll try to get back to you so we can answer those questions for you. But I think this is a great project. I think it's a great project, as you had said, Mayor Connolly, that the state should model for every municipality moving forward as a part of everyday planning, not just something special. It should be part of what they do for their community all across the state. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you everybody for attending. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email us, but I'll be sending a follow-up email with the recording. Please share to any interested folks. And again, thank you so much, Mayor, for attending and really being a model for towns for affordable housing.
My pleasure. And anyone, feel free to reach out to me if you have any particular questions. I try to answer them right now, but I've got a lot of smart people that are at my side to make this all happen, so I can hand you off to the right person.
I'll make sure your contact information is in that email to everybody.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All right.
Thank
Everyone,
you.
Take care.
everyone. Good
Good
night.
night.
Bye.
Bye.